but I figured out how to hit the record button, so I will make the announcement that this meeting is going to be recorded. You do not need to turn on your camera. That is not a requirement. You can keep your camera off. You do not have to display your name. You can keep that off as well. You are welcome to submit questions through the chat so that neither your voice, name, or image are displayed during the meeting. This is hosted on YouTube, but it is not searched on YouTube. It is kept publicly on our website, which is www.jeffriespoint.org. My name is Margaret Farmer, and I am co-chair of the Jeffries Point Neighborhood Association. Josh Smith, unfortunately, could not be here this evening, so I will let Susan introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Huan. I am the other co-chair. Jordan.
Good evening, Jeffries Point. Jordan Frias here. I am the new treasurer for this organization. Nice seeing you all.
We wish to both congratulate and provide condolences for Jordan on his new position as treasurer. We will start out with announcements. As we always do, the JPNA would like to thank Josh Smith. Unfortunately, he's not here to hear it, but Josh Smith was the person who organized our Love Your Block volunteer activity a few weeks ago in April. The great event picked up trash on our local streets and planted flowers in both Brophy Park and at the Golden Stairs Terrace Park. A number of volunteers and local community members came together to participate. So we would like to say thank you to him and everyone else who participated. It was greatly appreciated. You may have noticed that we are one board member down. Unfortunately, we need to announce that Carolina Chorvath, who joined us last fall as a board member, has unfortunately needed to step down. Unfortunately, work and other requirements in her life were a bit much. We are sorry to see her go. She was certainly a lovely member of the board. We will be sharing more information about an election as we are able to schedule things. Certainly, if you are interested in becoming a board member or becoming more involved, we welcome you. You're welcome to talk to any board member about the activities that we do or volunteering. You can email us at board@jeffriespoint.org if you'd like to hear an official job description, and we're happy to talk to you. Adding to the list of groups and people that we need to thank, we would like to thank Tree Eastie. If you walked by Brophy Park in the past 2 weeks, you may have noticed that there is a significant number of new plantings in Brophy Park. Tree Eastie, working with the Boston Parks Department, planted, I think, somewhere between 6 and 8 new saplings. This is a combination of leaf trees and flowering trees as well. And we need your help. We are asking for your help to discourage residents from letting their dogs pee on these trees. They are new and their root systems have not taken, their root balls have not spread out. And so we need to discourage dogs from peeing on them until they've had a chance to really establish themselves. Please remember, East Boston has the lowest level of tree cover of any neighborhood in Boston. Trees both purify the air, they lower the temperature in summer, and they also soak up the extra water that you may have noticed we've been having in the last couple of wet summers. It is in our best interest to make sure that these trees live. We are slowly losing all of our heritage trees, which are all the big old trees that are, well, not slowly, we're very quickly losing our heritage trees, which are the trees that are over 100 years old. And we need these new trees to really get established and live. And one of the ways we can do that is by discouraging dogs that come in from using them as potties. So you can help us do that, and we would greatly appreciate it. We are putting out an announcement on behalf of Belle Isle Marsh. They're putting out a survey. The survey questions are designed to collect information about the marsh itself. And one of the wonderful ways that East Boston is unique is because the Belle Isle Marsh is the last remaining natural salt marsh in Boston. The information collected will be used by the cities and towns that border the marsh, and also scientists studying the marsh and stakeholders concerned with preserving the marsh and protecting the surrounding communities from flooding. The survey was created by a community advisory group of neighbors from Revere, Winthrop, and Boston. And we will actually put the link to the survey in the chat so that you'd have a chance to take a look at it. Unfortunately, we do not have a link to a website for you to learn more, but I do believe if you I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you check the Belle Al Marsh Facebook page or do some Googling, Google Foo, you may be able to find it. But this is another way that I didn't actually realize that it was the last salt marsh in East Boston. So that is really wonderful to hear. We're also one of the last urban wilds in Boston, which is down on Marginal Street. So that is fun to know. The East Boston Ferry is up and running. And it's also a lot of fun. It's a great way to get to and from downtown. It takes off from Lewis Wharf and lands by the aquarium, running about approximately every half hour. More information is at www.mbta.com, or you can ask Adrian Madaro, our state rep, about it, as he is one of the reasons that we have the ferry running last summer and this summer. So you can both thank him and berate him for it when he does his own presentation. But seriously, folks, this is a really great way to get downtown, wonderful way to relax in the afternoon and evenings. And it also relieves a lot of the congestion on the Blue Line between Maverick Station and State. It will only continue to run if they see significant number of people using the ferry this summer. They saw great usage last summer, but if they don't see great usage this summer, they will not do it again next year. So please, think about it. It's great weather. You got an extra few minutes, go take the ferry. And it will run into the fall, and I bet you that Adrian will be able to tell us when it'll end. So I will leave it to him. I know there's a lot of announcements. I will try to get through them all. This Saturday, May 18th, there is a zero waste drop-off day at 400 Frontage Road in Lower Roxbury at the DPW facility. You can bring paper goods, electronics, textiles. You may also bring propane, paint, hazardous liquids, batteries, oil, and other items that need to be disposed of properly. This event is free and open to City of Boston residents. We received the flyer from the local police, but I'm sure, again, if you do some Google Foo on the City of Boston website, you'd be able to find out more information. Again, that is this Saturday, May 18th, and it is a zero waste drop-off day. So there we go. The JPNA is looking for a volunteer to help us during Eastie Week. We are interested in doing one of our free movie nights. As you can see, because we are down a board member, we need someone who could help us put on one of our free movie nights. It would be a Friday night during the month of July. It is not difficult lifting. It is more about someone being there who can help us coordinate that evening. If you are interested, please let us know. You can email us at board@jeffriespoint.org. If you're interested, even if you're not sure if you can do it, if you could let us know, that would be really helpful. It's really about being the person who knows where we can plug in at the local house, where the screen and everything is supposed to go, and we can teach you everything you need to know. It is a great way to meet neighbors. We are one of the most popular movie night locations in the city of Boston, and I have heard this from many people, and it is a lot of fun. And also, we haven't chosen the movie, and my feeling is if you volunteer, you get to have some input. So if you are a Raiders of the Lost Ark fan and are determined that we need to show that publicly, this is your chance. I'm just saying. Anyway, last announcement, and then I will be quiet. The Marginal Street Shipyard has agreed to attend the Planning and Zoning meeting this month. It is scheduled next Wednesday, May 27th. That will be at 7 p.m. on Zoom. They have agreed to provide us several documents in advance, which we will put up on our website at www.jeffriespoint.org at some point over the weekend. You may have noticed that we are having some website issues. We are working as quickly as we can to get them resolved. We do apologize for that, and we are doing our best. As always, we are grateful that you have joined us here this evening. We know, especially as the weather is gorgeous out, that there are 1,000 other things you could be doing that are more fun than sitting on Zoom, especially as you have been working all day. So we are grateful to have you here with us. We do normally start off with Sergeant Santolo and Officer Mosley. Unfortunately, I do not see them. Does anybody see them? Okay, in that case, we will move forward to the mayor's liaison, to Manuela Villagomez, and to her announcements. And then after her, we will go to State Rep Adrian Madaro. Manuela, please feel free to unmute yourself, and we look forward to your announcements. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. It's Mela. I'm the East Boston Liaison for the mayor's office. Margaret stole most of my announcements. So I'm happy that the word is getting out there, but I just wanted to quickly shout out the JPNA as well as other groups in the neighborhood for cleaning up during Love Your Block. It really is awesome to see the young people in our community. I saw so many kids from Jeffries Point out and about. I saw the McKay School out and the parents involved there cleaning up their schoolyard. But this is what it's all about. So if you haven't been involved with one of these cleanups in the future, you want to host one. They do run year round, or not year round, but in the warmer season. So feel free to reach out to the Office of Civic Organizing and or to me, and I'm happy to help you schedule your cleanup. I also have a quick announcement about the community choice electricity program. So this is a electricity program that you can opt into at any time. And all you have to do is have your account number for Eversource and just look up on the website Community Choice Electricity, and then you'll get the city's discounted rate. So the idea is that collectively we have buying power as a community, and you can opt into this. This is not a third party electricity program. So I know this often people will fall into scams where they offer you a really low rate and then they'll spike up the charge a lot. This is not that at all. And for comparison, I know that some folks that opt into these third-party electricity companies, they can pay up to 60 cents per kilowatt hour. With the community choice program, people are paying 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's a lot cheaper. Happy to walk folks through that. And it's super simple. If you can't do it, you can always call 311 and they can enroll you as well. And I have some good news. This will be rolled out next week, next Monday, but mattresses will now be able to be scheduled through the 311 app. So if you want to schedule your mattress for pickup, you can do that through the app as well as through the website. This is a really exciting advancement. I know that Jeffries Point has seen a lot of struggles with this. Trust me, I've like advocated 1,000,001 times. I have to plug Andrew Pike. I know he's not on here, but Andrew did a lot of advocacy on this. And this is truly a reflection of the wants and the needs of the community. So you can do it online. If you do not have access to technology or are not very tech savvy, I feel you, and you can just continue to call 311 and they will help you schedule that. And if you see a mattress that's been out there for a while and hasn't been picked up, is maybe illegally dumped, you can still take a picture of that and then just file it under debris so that way Public Works won't automatically close your case. However, if they are closing your case, please forward that to me immediately so that I can flag it for our district yard folks. We tried to clear out that kink, but it could still happen. I know they've got a lot on their plate, so they might close it out by accident. Just feel free to flag it for me and I'll get on it ASAP. But those are all my announcements. Again, the mattress thing will start next week. So you'll see a press release. I'll be sure to share it with Margaret and the team, and they can get that out on the Facebook page and other methods.
Did you want to announce the block party grants? I left you that one too.
Oh, yes. Block party grants. So exciting this year. We're hoping to get some new faces to host block parties. So if you haven't ever hosted a block party and you would like to apply, I'm gonna just like really emphasize that this announcement is for you. This year, they simplified the process a lot. All you need to do is apply for a Play Street grant. And I'll drop the links to these in the chat for folks, but Play Street grant, once you do that, at the very bottom of the application, or Play Street permit, sorry, I'm confusing my things. Play Street permit, once you apply for that, that is to close down your street. And at the bottom of that application, it will prompt you to ask you if you would like a block party grant. You can be granted up to $750 city money for you to spend on things like pizza and games, We don't have any more block party kits. We just found that they weren't super reliable in terms of getting all the pieces in a Jenga game, for example, or all the pieces in checkers or whatever. So we're eliminating that, but we are making the process a lot more streamlined. The process should take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. And if for whatever reason you applied for a block party grant and you haven't been granted the grant, please feel free to flag that for my office, and I'd be happy to check in on it for you as well. And like I said, I really am hoping to see new faces hosting block parties. They're super, super fun. I'm not sure if any of you all went to them, but Haynes Streets does a really, really awesome block party every year. And it's just a great moment to celebrate living in this wonderful community and take pride in the street that you live on.
Do you know what the deadline is?
I believe it's on a rolling basis
Okay.
until the funds run out. So the sooner you can get the application in, the better. And then they'll save some money for October so that we can continue to do the spooky streets. So if you're hoping to host a site for trick-or-treaters and close off your street, they are going to be granting some block party grants for spooky streets.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome.
And I'll drop the links to these things so folks can find them.
Okay. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Manuela. So up next is Adrian Madaro. He is not feeling that great this evening. So if he sounds stuffy, it is not your speakers or your microphone. It is him. While Adrian is presenting, people are welcome to put questions into the chat, and we will queue them up to ask them of him when he is finished. If he answers them during his presentation, that is totally fine. We will simply skip over it for the next one. But I will say that this is part of the JPNA's mission, is to hold our elected officials accountable. We ask all of our elected officials to come at least once a year to tell us like what they've been up to, what their priorities are, and to kind of report back. And Adrian is always really wonderful about coming in and answering questions. We've had Gigi, our city councilor, here. I always like cross my fingers that the mayor can make time, but I know she's very busy. But Manuela, feel free to poke her, as we would always love to have her. But Adrian, I will let you take it away because I know you have a little one to get to bed later on this evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Good evening, everyone. Apologies in advance. I do sound a little stuffy, and I may need to blow my nose or cough throughout this, but hopefully we'll be able to get through, without any issues. And Jordan, I appreciate the well wishes. When you have 2 little ones at home that are just vectors of disease and infection, this is what you get. So anyway, Margaret, are you controlling the slides or is it Jordan?
It's not
It's
me.
Susan.
Margaret. Okay. So I'll just, I'll let you know when, to move on, Margaret, but
It's Susan actually, and you can just
Susan. Okay, great.
just say go
Good.
ahead.
Good.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you, Susan. So good evening, everyone. Once again, Adrian Madaro, your state representative here in East Boston. Really happy to join with you all this evening to provide an update about the work we've been doing in the community and at the State House. First and foremost, I want to thank the board, Margaret, Susan, Josh, Jordan. I want to thank Carolina and all the past board members for their service. I grew up attending the Eagle Hill Civic Association meetings. My mom has been involved in that organization for longer than I've been alive, although she'd probably hate for me to say that publicly. Oh, well. But I recognize how hard you all as board members work, taking an inordinate amount of time away from your personal lives, from work, from whatever, to volunteer to provide this service for our community. And the work does not begin and end just with the hosting of these meetings, folks. There is a lot of back-end work that goes in. And so I just want to say thank you to our neighbors who are board members who help really provide an important civic platform for so many of us in East Boston. Also want to thank Mela. I know she's here every single month. You're doing a fantastic job for us as the mayor's liaison. Really exciting news about the mattresses and about the different grants and opportunities. So I want to just echo the encouragement to get folks involved in applying for those. I know JPNA does a wonderful job doing community building events. These civic groups don't need to be just about development and updates from politicians, right? They can really be great forums to build community, meet your neighbors, and make a stronger East Boston. And that's certainly what JPNA does. And I look forward to stopping by your potluck later this summer at the Golden Stairs Terrace. So to get into things, I often describe my job as covering kind of three major areas: constituent work, the state budget, and legislation. And I will cover all three. I'll try to at least cover all three this evening. Susan, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I am your state rep. So I work at the State House downtown alongside the Boston Common. And while the issues technically under our purview are state matters, any issue you're having in the neighborhood, whether it's city, state, federal, please never hesitate to reach out. We will either resolve or try to resolve the issues ourselves or liaison with our partners in Councilor Coletta's office, Mella's team, Senator Edwards's office, or anyone else in city, state, or federal government. So, if an issue is bothering you, then we want to help. We want to help you resolve it, whether it's potholes or street lights, whether it's unemployment or food insecurity or housing insecurity, whether it's things like passport renewals, which we've been getting a lot of recently since there's such a backlog. But please never hesitate to reach out. We are here to help. And that goes for me and for my team. We can go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So we just tackled the House budget a few weeks ago at the end of April. The state budget is about $58 billion. There are 200 legislators, 160 state reps like me, and then 40 senators. And, during the budget process, our role is, of course, to advocate for important statewide programs and investments, but it's also our role to make sure a slice of that $58 billion comes back to the district we represent. So in this case, East Boston. So let me start with some of the House budget wins for East Boston specifically. Margaret, you mentioned the $1 million for the East Boston Ferry. This is a continuation of funding that was started a few years back. Right now, it runs from oh my God, what's the wharf? Long Wharf? Wow, Rose Wharf? Long Wharf to Rose Wharf? I don't know. It runs right behind Port Side, and it goes directly across to the north end. This was really started. We started planning this when we knew the Sumner Tunnel would close and the Blue Line was going to shut down for a significant amount of work. Excuse me. But really, the overall goal, folks, is to have this robust inner harbor ferry network that knits together East Boston, Charlestown, the North End, the Seaport. But we were able to get it going almost on a pilot basis for this East Boston North End leg. And the MBTA was very clear at the time that this was only to be a pilot. And to Margaret's point earlier, ridership matters. The ridership completely exceeded expectations that the T set. The ferry was slammed, both years we've been running it. And now there's genuine interest in actually making this a permanent fixture of public transportation. We still do need to secure the $1 million for now. But, hopefully this is the step in what is a long vision that's been held by, there's been folks who've been advocating. I see Salamatino on the Zoom. He was talking about an inner harbor ferry network when I was a little kid growing up in East Boston. So this has been a long time coming, but this is the first step. And please use the ferry. It started back up on April 1st, and it will continue through the end of November. But we do need that ridership to stay strong for this to become a permanent fixture in our community and in surrounding communities. So we got $50,000 for the East Boston Community Soup Kitchen. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the amazing work being done there to help address food insecurity for some of our most vulnerable neighbors. Every Tuesday, they're providing meals, sit-down meals for folks, and they really do a wonderful job. We secured $50,000 for East Boston Mutual Aid. These are a number of neighbors of ours who identified some significant gaps that weren't being met by either government or nonprofits. And they really focus on peer-to-peer support, whether it's behavioral health or social services. and they're really an amazing complement to the incredible nonprofit sector that we already have in our community. Youth Connect, $50,000 for that. This is a program that I helped bring back to East Boston. It is a social worker that's based out of the District 7 police station, but they're not affiliated with the police. Really, the role that they have is many nonprofits, the police, folks in government will refer young people to Youth Connect to meet with this Youth Connect social worker. And it's all, the goal is preventative and diversionary, right? It's to prevent young people from getting involved in the criminal justice system to begin with. We secured $300,000 for the Friends of the Children Boston. This is a really cool organization that is just starting to get into East Boston, and we secured this earmark for them to really ramp up their efforts as they look to get into every public school in the community. There is a strong component of mentorship, a strong component of behavioral health, and it's a really cool program. I'm really excited to be bringing them to East Boston. Right now, they're at the Umana. They're doing a wonderful job at the Umana. They've had a cohort of kids for a couple of years, and it's been so successful that we've actually heard from other school leaders who want Friends of the Children in their schools too. So we're helping them expand their footprint into East Boston. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Veronica Robles and her cultural center. Her dancers in their beautiful costumes cheer us up at so many community events, but they really do a wonderful job, not only brightening our spirits with amazing song and dance, but importantly, she also has a really strong youth entrepreneurship program. So this money will help with her programming and also help with her youth entrepreneurship program. Margaret was talking about Tree Eastie in her introduction. We work very closely with Bill Masterson in his mission with Tree Eastie to not have us be a community with the lowest tree canopy in the entire city. So this is the second budget in a row that we've secured funding for Tree Eastie to help those efforts. So I know you mentioned, Margaret, the recent tree plantings at Brophy Park. We want to see a lot more of that in East Boston. We're obviously an environmental justice community that suffers from degraded air quality. Trees are a first line of defense. So the more trees we can get in our community, the better. And Bill is also a neighbor who lives nearby in Jeffries Point. So this is a beautiful community-driven initiative that started from the ground up, and I'm really proud to support them in their work. And then, of course, around the corner from Jeffries Point is the Maverick Landing Community Services, located right in Maverick Landing, run by our neighbor Rita Lara. They have an amazing housing stabilization initiative that they've started for the past couple of years. They work with a team of student attorneys from a couple of our local law schools, really to ensure that tenants who are facing displacement, facing eviction, folks who are housing insecure, have the tools and resources, including the legal tools and resources needed to try to stay in this community, and importantly, to try to keep our community whole, because it's really heartbreaking anytime we lose a neighbor of ours to displacement, because these are folks who really make up the fabric and character of our community, and they're what make East Boston special. So, excuse me. We've got $75,000 for them to continue their work at that housing stabilization fund or initiative. Now I want to focus on some statewide investments. Here on the screen, you see House budget wins for housing. We invested nearly $200 million in RAFT, the rental assistance for families in transition. This is emergency short-term funding for families who are facing eviction, foreclosure, who need help with, with utilities, other housing emergencies. Many of you may have heard about the right to counsel. This has been a long-time policy push to provide all tenants facing displacement and eviction the right to an attorney. Oftentimes, tenants go representing themselves. They represent themselves pro se. And almost always, if a tenant is representing themselves, the disposition it comes out favorably for the landlord. The mere presence of an attorney supporting that tenant often leads to a settlement, right? And it often leads to a better outcome for the tenant. And so for a community that counts, I think 70% of our neighbors are renters, it's really important that folks have access to the right to counsel. Of course, this has been a bit of a difficult financial picture. I'm sure you've all seen the stories about the challenges with the state budget. And while the long-term goal is to make this a right to counsel for all, what we were able to do, given the tight fiscal picture, is start this up as a pilot with $2.5 million. I expect this to be wildly successful, and I expect that this will be something that we're able to build off of from here. Susan, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So now I want to talk about the wins for the MBTA. The House made a record investment of about $500 million into the T. Much more money than the governor put in her budget, and this is really exciting because at the end of the day, we all know that public transportation is absolutely essential, not only to get us from point A to point B, but also just in terms of supporting our neighbors and supporting economic development. And there are so many things that benefit when you invest in public transportation and make it reliable and affordable. But for a long time, we have underinvested our public transit system, particularly the MBTA. So this $555 million is a huge step in the right direction. It is certainly not the panacea, but it's a major step in the right direction. And I think for the first time in a long time, we're having serious conversations about what real long-term sustainable funding would look like for the T. 75 million of that went to physical infrastructure improvements. 20 million of that went to reduced fares for low-income riders. I'm particularly proud of the low-income fare piece because it's a piece of legislation I file and I've championed for a number of years now. This is the most significant investment in low-income fares that we've had to date, and this program really does have legs, folks. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Beyond just being the state rep for East Boston, I also serve in House leadership as the chair of the Committee on Mental Health, Substance Use, and Recovery. So in that capacity, all issues relative to behavioral health fall under my purview. That also includes issues when we're talking about the state budget and where the investments are going. So importantly, just to highlight a few things, nearly $1.2 billion for DMH, the Department of Mental Health, tackling things like adult mental health and support services and child and adolescent services. This is really important. This is a big investment. Obviously, behavioral health issues have always existed, but coming out of the pandemic, I think there's a new appreciation and more attention for these things. But in particular, youth behavioral health issues are getting a lot more attention than ever before. They obviously saw their traditional support systems and networks just evaporate overnight, and they've been struggling ever since. So the $131 million for child and adolescent services is something that's really important, as is the $10 million for the most intensive adolescent needs. And then you'll see some other things, $14 million for suicide prevention, almost $200 million for BSAS. That funds so many recovery and harm reduction programs across the state. So these are important investments to make. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So we talked a bit about constituent services, which is like that first bucket of my job. We talked about the state budget, which is the second large domain. The next thing I want to transition to is legislation, which is the third major component of the work that we do at the State House. So this session, I filed 22 bills. I should say the session is nearing its close, right? So we will end, we're on 2-year cycles. This session ends in July. We're all running for re-election, and then a new session will begin in January. So almost 2 years ago now, I filed 22 bills. 2 have become law: the MBTA fare discounts for low-income riders, as well as in-state tuition for all students, regardless of immigration status. That's something that this community had championed for a long, long time, and I'm really happy that that is now finally law. 14 of the bills I filed have been reported out favorably, which means they advance to the next step in the legislative process. On my committee, the one that I chair, Mental Health, Substance Use, and Recovery, so there were 103 bills filed under my purview in behavioral health, meaning mental health and substance use issues. Part of our role, when you chair a committee, part of the role is making sure you're facilitating the public process for every piece of legislation that's filed. That means we have to host a hearing for every bill that's filed and ensure that the public has the opportunity to submit testimony, whether verbally or in written form. And it's important that the public has access to these things, but also has the opportunity to weigh in and help shape what ultimately may become law. So we heard 103 bills. Thus far, we've evaluated and reported out 77 of them. 26 are still under consideration. If we could go to the next slide, please. So we recently passed an act in financing improvements to municipal roads and bridges. This is otherwise known as Chapter 90 funding. The conditions of our streets, of our bridges, of our roads certainly need some TLC across the state. Excuse me. And here in East Boston, and the way it works at the highest level is we pass a Chapter 90 bill every year, and the state doles out a significant amount of money to all the municipalities. The municipalities themselves are then responsible for actually tackling the various streets and roads, et cetera, bridges that need to be done. So we invested $200 million into Chapter 90, which is to improve roads and bridges, and $150 million to support multimodal access, electric vehicles, bus transit infrastructure, things of that nature. In the queue, we have a veterans omnibus bill. An omnibus bill is like a bunch of different small bills all cobbled together into one overarching bill. So we have a veterans omnibus bill coming up. We have the housing bond bill coming up. We have an IT infrastructure bill coming up. And in the next week or two, we'll be voting on a hospital reform bill coming on the heels of the Steward fiasco, the Steward hospitals, which what a shame that is. But we will hopefully be taking a vote to make sure that never happens again. The public can always follow along what we're doing. The link to the website, MALegislature.
If you need me to read a slide for a second, it's okay.
Sorry, folks, I'm struggling. And then I just spilled my glass of water all over my laptop. So I'm off to a good start, but thankfully it's elevated. I'm hoping for the best. We're just going to keep going and I'll deal with the consequences later. But anyway, so MALegislature.gov, you can always stay in touch on the debate and see what we're tackling next. And just the last piece on the bottom. So the House takes up the budget in April. The Senate takes up the budget in May. It then goes to something called conference committee, which is where the House and the Senate hash out their differences. And then the governor eventually signs it. Perhaps the governor might do some vetoes, which we may override or may not. But needless to say, the House process is but the first step in the overall budget process. So it's still got a long way to go, and that probably won't be law until about July. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I want to get a little deeper into transportation. I started talking about this when I was talking about the $1 million to continue the East Boston ferry, but the ferry did open April 1st. Ridership has been strong thus far. It will go through November 30th. And again, it is funded for another year. Right now, it is the same price as a subway ticket. So $240 to ride the ferry. However, it will be free during the Sumner Tunnel shutdown. You may have seen the news. We've been working really closely with DOT to try to avoid a full 2-month closure of the tunnel like we experienced last summer. So we were able to get them to reduce it to 1 month this summer, which will allow us to travel a little easier in August. But the tunnel will be closed for July. And when the tunnel is closed, we will benefit from the same mitigation package that we had last summer. So free Blue Line, free ferry, discounted parking at all the MBTA lots all the way up the North Shore, as well as a few other pieces of mitigation. But the big ones are definitely free Blue Line and free ferry. I want to address the recent issue of trucks getting stuck in the Sumner Tunnel. This has been the recent bane of my existence, and I'm sure many of you share in that sentiment. So first of all, I want to dispel a myth I've been hearing across the community. The height of the tunnel, in fact, has not lowered from the Sumner Tunnel work. I suspected that to be the case. I did have Mass DOT go out and measure just to be certain, because I never want to give an answer that I'm not certain of to a constituent. They did go out and measure. It's the same height that it was before the work started on the tunnel. So there isn't a neat answer as to why this is happening with increased frequency. But the reality is it is happening with increased frequency. And they have a verb when trucks get hit, when they hit the overpass in the Sturrow Drive, they call it the trucks are getting sturrowed. I have now started to say trucks are getting sumnered because it's happening with that level of frequency. But the good news is there is some relief on the way. My team and I have been in close coordination with Mass DOT, and really we're talking about a three-pronged approach. First of all, they plan to add more signage in the upcoming closure, even further up north and in different areas that isn't already signage. I will say there's a lot of signage already. There are also chains that the 18-wheelers hit. There are also alarm bells that go off. There's a lot of notifications. So I think signage alone is not the answer, even though that's an important piece to the puzzle, which is why I'm excited about the other two elements that they're finally now exploring. So if Jordan, I'm looking at you. If you're driving an oversized vehicle in an 18-wheeler and I'm driving my Honda Accord and we're both going to the State House and we put it into the same GPS application, it is going to take us both through the Sumner Tunnel. Folks, that fundamentally is a problem, right? The most commonly used GPS navigation applications, think Waze, Apple Maps, Google Maps, they do not differentiate between an oversized vehicle and a standard sized vehicle, right? And that's problematic for obvious reasons. And we see what's happening when trucks get sumnered. So they are, Mass DOT is now in talks with the navigation applications to try to see how they may be able to differentiate, whether it's like an opt-in for a driver that says, are you using an oversized vehicle, right? Because in the example I gave you, Jordan driving that 18-wheeler should be taking the Tobin or the Ted Williams Tunnel, not the Sumner Tunnel. And you know, the reality is I think many drivers are so focused on following that GPS, they may not see the signage, they may not hear the warnings. And so that coordination with the navigation applications is really important, as is a conversation about the third prong that they're exploring, which is ways to better hold drivers and transportation companies accountable. You know, they're looking at what the tickets look like, what the fines look like, what impacts to licenses look like. Pretty much everything is on the table, folks. One thing that's clear is the status quo is not acceptable. It's happening far too often, and we need to get a handle on the situation. And we'll continue to work with DOT until we see some progress on that. I think we can go to the next slide, please.
So Adrian, I just want to do a quick time check. You've been talking for 20 minutes and you're clearly starting to struggle and we haven't gotten to questions. So
okay. I'll breeze through the last bit of this, Margaret. Okay. I am starting to struggle. Thank you for recognizing that. But I mean,
I think you're covering you're covering great information and I don't want to stop you. At the same time,
Absolutely. I'll be quick. So I'll let you all read these stats. This is just, I was wowed when the T put this out. To over 22,000 feet of rail, over 9,000 feet of catenary wire. I mean, this was an immense amount of work that the MBTA employees put into the Blue Line. We now finally have no more slow zones on the Blue Line. This was something my team and I worked really hard to make sure that this was tackled before the closure of the Sumner Tunnel so we could have the best running Blue Line possible. We are now the only line without slow zones. This time last year, there were over 30 slow zones that we had on the Blue Line. So they have done an inordinate amount of work in the past year to really get the Blue Line to be in the best shape possible. And this is the first time in years that we've had no slow zone. So that is really exciting. We can go to the next slide, please. This just goes over some of the investments. It wasn't just tracks and cables. They repaired stairways at stations. They replaced roof canopies. Really, a lot of fencing. A ton of work went into the Blue Line, and I'd argue that the Blue Line is now, probably the best line in terms of where it's at maintenance-wise in the system. So really proud of that work and super grateful to the T for their partnership, and most importantly to the workers that you see in these photos who. They were working so hard to get this done in the timeline we asked for, and they did. So I'm really pleased with that. Next slide. Keep an eye out for announcements for our coffee hours. We do a number of these throughout the year. We'll have a link to the newsletter that gets shared in the chat. You can also follow my work on social media. We always post notifications for coffee hours and other things there. Next slide, please. These are just some photos from my family runs a nonprofit, the Madaro Family Community Fund. Mainly, we host 2 big events at Thanksgiving Day dinner and Eastie's Elves. The Thanksgiving Day dinner is the largest Thanksgiving event in our community. We got out over 750 meals on Thanksgiving. We passed out over 100 turkeys in advance of the holiday. None of this would be possible without so many volunteers, including some folks on the Zoom now. So I want to thank the community for stepping up. We have folks who literally come on Thanksgiving morning to feed their neighbors when they could be home with their own family. It is the most heartwarming thing. And then for Eastie's Elves, again, my thanks and gratitude to the community. We collected over 2,000 toys that were passed out to families who needed, who needed them. This is a great way to uplift the spirits for the holidays. And then beyond the toys, we gave out thousands of dollars worth of gift cards, providing financial support to over 120 families in the community. So this is all thanks to the generous donations and volunteer efforts from our neighbors. So thank you all. Next slide. More community engagement stuff. Next slide, please. My favorite slide of all. Obviously, I love my job. I hope you can tell that despite me coughing up a lung right now. But this job is an incredible privilege for a kid born and raised in this community to be able to represent East Boston at the State House is really a dream come true. But my most important job is being a husband to my wife, Ariel, and a dad to these 2 awesome boys. Mateo is the one in the middle. He will be 3 on Friday. And Nico, the little guy my wife is holding, just turned 1 in March. They're both running. My house is chaos, but it's so much fun. And it is absolutely the most rewarding experience of my life. So if you see them in the community, don't be shy to say hello. Otherwise, I look forward to introducing them to you at the next event that I bring them to. Next, yes, this is a contact slide. My email, I want to give a shout out to my staff. We have Stephen on the left in the green jacket, Trisha in the brown jacket next to him. We have Marcella in the back right corner. She is the one who's often attending JPNA meetings on behalf of the office. And then, of course, we have Glorabelle holding a box in front. As a former staffer at the State House, I can tell you wholeheartedly, you're only as good as the team that you have. And I'm incredibly grateful to have the staff that I have, who are always willing to roll up their sleeves early mornings, late nights, weekdays, weekends to help fight to make East Boston the best community it can be. So really grateful to them and grateful to all of you for listening to this update. With that, let's get right into the questions.
Adrian, wasn't that photo taken at the East Boston?
Yes, and Margaret, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Steven's holding an egg.
Is he?
He's holding an egg. So I was like, wait a second.
Thank you for helping put that on, Margaret. That is an awesome event. This was the first year Mateo was like really into it, so it was really, really fun. So thank you for that.
Yes, and your staff actually took over the 0 to 3. So like your entire staff showed up and took the 0 to 3 kids, took all of them like over to a separate field and handled all of them. So that was really great. We really appreciated that. And I'm going to turn it over to Jordan because he has agreed to take over the chat and take over the questions that have been turned in. And I'm talking for a few seconds so you can blow your nose and get a drink of water. And he will then take over asking questions.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Adrian, for all that. So looking in the chat, I want to say the questions that were in the chat were answered. So you did ask about, someone did ask about the blue line being free during the shutdown. That was answered. Someone asked about why there's a sudden increase in trucks getting sumnered. I think that was answered as well. But if you feel you need to elaborate on any of those, feel free to.
I mean, I would really turn that back to the folks who asked the questions. If you feel like your question was answered, let me know. Or if not, I guess let me know, and I'm happy to dive deeper.
I mean, I'm the one who asked about the getting sumnered. I mean, it just kind of seems weird that it's increasing now, but I think that it's clearly a computer issue. So.
Yep. I wish there was an easy thing to point at and say, this is the reason why. But the reality is we don't know. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. The GPS applications, I think the economy continues to pick up, and so there are more goods being transported. I'm really not sure, but again, one thing that's certain is that the status quo is not acceptable, so we got to keep working at it.
Jordan, do you see Kim's?
I don't see any hands or anyone in the chat, but I actually had a question.
Oh,
For
go
you,
ahead.
Adrian.
Good.
How's it going with the red line, blue line connection? Is that in the budget?
It's advancing. So there are capital dollars put aside for it. We recently had a meeting about that at the East Boston Library. And by recently, time is an illusion with two little kids. Recent, probably like 3 months ago. But this thing is finally advancing, Jordan, and this is something that we have been clamoring for. This was mitigation promised to our community from the Big Dig, right? Here we are in 2024, decades after the Big Dig, and it still isn't yet a reality. But this is pretty much the closest that we've gotten to it to date. There are renderings out there that the T has shared. There is money being tucked aside. There are some final plans being put forth. But what it's looking like is Bowdoin Station will close. They will create the turnaround to Charles MGH, right? And there will be a red-blue in lieu of Bowdoin Station. So while it's sad to see Bowdoin come offline, I will say it has the lowest ridership, or it has the fewest amount of people out of any of the Blue Line stations. But I think it's a trade-off that's well worth it to get the red-blue connector, which will finally give our community a direct connection to some of the largest job growth sectors in the region, whether it's in the Seaport or whether it's in the Innovation Center in Cambridge. But beyond that, importantly, it gives folks all along the red line, which, I mean, that counts an enormous population of folks that live along the red line corridor. It now gives them direct access to the airport. And we will be baking in all sorts of incentives, partnering with Massport for folks to take public transit to the airport, like, free, I don't know about free bag check, but, immediate bag checking. So you get it on the front of the line, discounts, all sorts of things are on the table. But we really want that to be something that allows us to realize a reduced, amount of car traffic to our community.
Well, thank you so much for your advocacy there. We do have two questions in the chat. I'll start with Kim Carvalho's question. Since the ferry is the price of a subway ticket, is there a way Charlie cards could be used? Not being able to use a pass makes the ferry an issue for many of our neighbors who can't afford extra transportation costs.
Couldn't agree more, Kim. That is a persistent issue. The simple answer is that the card readers that go on other ferries, or that can go on something that's not kind of completely stationary like a train station, are quite expensive. And to date, the T has not wanted to have the hand-hold card readers out on what they consider a test, a test in public transportation. Everyone, myself included, and the T understand that for this to be a long-term thing, that will need to happen, and that's something we are actively working on. It will not be ready for this summer, unfortunately. I do agree that is a barrier. I also think that we would have even higher ridership if Charlie cards could be used. But that is a piece of the puzzle that we need to continue to work on, Kim, and I appreciate you flagging that.
And there's one more.
Yes, there's one more. Is there a trade-off to having the tunnel only closed 1 month this summer? Does this mean, for example, it will not be closed more weekends throughout the year, or for a month next summer?
A month next summer will not happen. There will be some more weekend closures. We don't know the amount, but it will not add up to what a full month of closure would be if it were closed July and in August. And like you, I get impacted every time the tunnel is closed on the weekend. It is really frustrating. However, the frustration I felt and the feedback that I got last summer when it was closed for 2 straight months was really overwhelming. And I think people kind of reached a breaking point towards the end of August when we just had, I mean, we were completely severed from, municipal services and downtown and everything for 2 straight months. That is a real tough pill to swallow, particularly for folks who, for example, may not be able to take the train to work and may need to drive their car, right? So I don't think there's a perfect answer here, folks, right? The one thing that's for certain is the work needs to get done. But I don't think there's a perfect answer in terms of, is it better to do it for 2 full months or is it better to spread it out over the weekends? I believe that our quality of life will be least impacted. I would say it's better, right? But I think it will be least impacted by not having a closure for 2 full months. Even if we need to deal with a couple weekend closures thereafter. But in terms of next summer, there will be no closures, barring something like totally unforeseen happening in the tunnel, which, would be on the contractor to deal with. I don't see that happening. And certainly there's no plans to do any future closures anytime soon.
Thank you, Adrian. I think that's all we got in the chat for you tonight. I send it back to Margaret.
Okay, Adrian, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here, especially knowing that you are not feeling well. As always, we know you put up the slide with your contact information, and we also put in the chat the link to how to sign up for your newsletter. And as always, you are also able to be found through Google Foo. So people should reach out to you when they have questions or other concerns, as you are certainly very accessible. Also, when you have other coffee hours, we are certainly happy to put them up on our social media as well to make sure people are able to get in contact with you. So we will let you go.
Thank you all so much.
I do see one raised hand. I'm so sorry. I don't know if
please, Dustin.
Dustin?
Yeah, Dustin.
Hi, sorry. I think my question might have got missed in the chat. So right now, Apple Maps is bringing drivers, like all drivers, to the Maverick Street gate. And I think a lot of people are confused and get stuck there. Is there anything Mass DOT can do to stop Apple from directing people to that restricted access gate?
Yeah, this is, I really appreciate you flagging this, Dustin. I'm jotting this down now. No application should be sending you to the Maverick Gate where only we in East Boston have passes to open the arm. So that's foolish. And I appreciate you flagging that. I will flag that with Mass DOT. How this generally works, Dustin, is when there is an error or an inconsistency, Mass DOT has a full-time staffer that now interfaces with these navigation applications, and they flag these issues, and generally the navigation applications will fix them. So my team and I will follow up on that, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, Margaret, and to the board, thank you so much. To the community, thank you for your time. Sorry, I've been hacking up a lung, but I didn't want to miss this update. So I wish you all a wonderful evening, and thank you again for your patience and for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. We're doing things a little bit out of order this evening. We had several requests from people who have kids to move things around. So we had Adrian go a little earlier, and we're having Javi Caraballo go a little bit earlier as well. He is joining us, as you can see, from his car, as he is also picking up a kid from a sports event. Javi is the owner of Eastie Fit, which used to be located at the intersection of Orleans and Everett, and has Eastie CrossFit, and has now moved over into the Shipyard. So we asked Javi to be here because we heard some concern from several residents about residents being on Maverick Street. So we wanted Javi to talk a little bit about his business and about what he does, and talk about what the schedule will be so people will be aware for safety reasons. And then have a little bit of a dialogue. But Javi, I want you to talk about your business because, you're in the business of healthy people being healthier, and we want to hear about that first. So go right ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you and good night, right? I hope that you guys are having a nice evening. I'm trying to get some light on my face so you guys can see me, but you can, go by the shipyard at, Eastie Fit and come over and have a conversation. You can see my whole face, in person. Also, thank you to the JPNA board. We been in and out of these conversations and part of these meetings since 2000, probably 12 or 13. And you guys have always been very kind and generous with your time and opportunity. So thank you again, right? So I only have 3 slides, right? Just gonna kind of like give you guys a little overview of who we are. Eastie Fit / Eastie CrossFit. We've been in, like Margaret said, we used to be a 1 Everett Street. Probably all of you guys are very aware that under some sort of renovation construction. So after many good years there, we moved to the shipyard. We're right in between. Actually, right now we're the only business in that block because we're in between what was Seabiscuit and what was Windy Films, who were like great neighbors to us. So we're sad to kind of like see them leave. So the purpose of our business is to really offer transformative experience to our neighbors in East Boston. And of course, our scope of practice is health and fitness. We do it through CrossFit, which is a very community-oriented fitness approach or modality. You can see from our pictures how happy our people are from and how diverse our population is. So that's what we do as a purpose. Our huge vision is for everyone in East Boston to have access to following the eat, train, and sleep practices. This is something that we switched once we got shut down in 2020, right? We understood that a gym or a gym space was not enough because the gym space went away, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we really cannot help our athletes, our community right now, because we don't have a gym, we don't have a place to meet. So we started integrating these practices of eat, train, and sleep. And the idea is that these are practices that you can do outside of the gym, right? We all eat outside of the gym, we all sleep outside of the gym, and we have opportunities to train outside of the gym too. So we work really hard to educate and empower athletes to be able to make those decisions also when they're not in front of us, when they are more likely to, make the right decisions when they're in front of their coaches, right? And the mission is to empower East Boston neighbors to transform their lives through eat, train, and sleep practices in pursuit of an abundant life, right? We all have different lifestyles, so maybe going to the gym on a weekly basis might not be what we can do at this time. So that's why we also provide other opportunities, right? We can go to the next slide, please. That's my amazing wife, right, Sandy. So we founded the gym in 2013. It used to be in 1 Everett Street. We've been East Boston neighbors since 2010. We serve at the Donald McKay as volunteers, usually between March and now, although it's been a little bit quieter now. I have a part-time there in the hiring committee. So I spend a lot of time at the Donald McKay, and my wife does too. My 2 kids go there right now. And between just Sandy and I, we have over 30 years of experience in the fitness and wellness industry. A lot of people come to the gym and I'm like, Javi, you guys need to brag more about yourselves. And I'm like, well, we're not that type of people that we want to brag about ourselves. Like, come over, meet us at the gym, and then we'll show you everything that we can. And the Eastie Fit team is super committed to serve our neighbors in East Boston. Most of them live in East Boston too. So we're very fortunate of that. And a lot of them also are bilingual in English and Spanish. So we're also able to serve a pretty broad community, truly our neighbors in East Boston. Last slide. Of course, I wouldn't be a coach and I wouldn't have a business if I wouldn't ask for an invite for you guys to come over, right? And even if it's just to have a conversation, if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to our website. Our website is super simple. It's geteastiefit.com, right? Geteastiefit.com. So you can go there to see who we are and what we do. That's our same for our Instagram handle, geteastiefit. And but if you're super interested, you can find it on our website. You can scan the QR code. You can go to the website and schedule a free call with our coaches, and then we're giving you guys a special offer, right, for our neighbors in Jeffries Point. So I'm open for any questions. Well, like Margaret asked specifically about a schedule, right? So we have classes starting early in the morning, right? As early as 6 a.m. And we do use the back gate of the shipyard, the same way that, I don't know, it'll be interesting. I think maybe one day I'm just gonna sit there with a counter and see how many people use that gate, probably thousands, you know? So we use that gate to be able to go out there and run. Depending on the athlete and the time of the day, we might go on the sidewalk, or we might go on the street to run, right? Which is like, and we're being aware that it could be a safety situation. So we've been encouraging our athletes to use the right side of the sidewalk, because also on the left side of the sidewalk where the condos are, is also a safety for our runners, right? Because like none of those condos have like some sort of like device, or like maybe not even like one of those mirrors that you
Like a
can see.
mirror that they can
Yeah.
like see people. Yeah, I can say,
So
yeah, that makes sense.
so usually we run on the left side, or we run on the street also, so that way we don't have to cross the street when Jeffries Street, right? But like we start early in the morning, and usually there's no issues in the morning. We haven't had any issues. The one situation that happened around the 5-6 p.m. time. So we have made aware our athletes, you know, to be careful when we're running around that time. But our classes in the afternoon are 4:15, 5:30, 6:30, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays we have a 7:30 class, right? But that's kind of like our schedule, and you know what we have done to mitigate the safety of our neighbors, and also of our athletes when they're running on that side of the street. So if there's any questions or any more concerns that I can address, I'll be happy to hang around and answer some questions.
Can I just, I've actually been out several times and had people run in front of my car. Like, cause I've been stuck, like, I come home late at night. So like, I wind up down on Marginal Street a lot. I really would encourage you to have everybody, at least when they're coming out, like to be on the sidewalk. Cause the group came out on Marginal Street and then came out on the street, and then the leader went up onto the sidewalk, and I was like, oh, that's great, they're gonna go up on the sidewalk, and someone like turned in front of my car as I was coming down, and I like had to stop short. And I'm sure that you, like me, don't want anybody to get hurt. Like that would be the worst thing.
No, absolutely, absolutely. We've been encouraging to them to run on the right side of the sidewalk. We'll continue to let them know, right? Sometimes working with adults, it could be hard, you know. So we will encourage them, and and most of the time when there's a running workout, the coach will take a walk outside just to see. So I'll continue to encourage the coaches to do that, just to make sure, and you know, and let them know that it's a safety situation, not only for themselves, but for the neighbors. I remember that on Whatever Street, I always used to tell them, it's like, slow down when you make the left turn in front of Sumix, you know.
Yeah.
So like we used to have that as a precaution. So I think like we were actually, you know, in full transparency, we were kind of like super relaxed, because like there's a lot less traffic, and we used to run around Everett Street, which there's a lot of traffic, and the sidewalks are really narrow, and the sidewalks are all like bent out of shape, you know. So I think like in full transparency, we were super relaxed, because now we had like technically a whole road to run on. So we will make the necessary adjustments to continue to be safe.
I mean, so two thoughts. Number one, it might be worth talking to the shipyard about being able to like run out on a pier and run back, which, you know, because people are not allowed to drive out on the piers to begin with, number one. Number two, if it's not dark out, you could potentially run out Marginal Street, run up onto the Navy Fuel Pier Park, and then turn around and come back on the sidewalk. So that way you actually like separate the group and do like a little circle.
Oh, that's actually a great idea. I have to go out there and measure it, but I never thought about that. Actually, I never thought about it because I thought that, you know, it would be just safer to just stay out of that park. But I will definitely look at it and measure it out and see. Because we run our kind of like our 400-meter mark is the second crosswalk down Marginal. So probably if we just go into the park and loop and stay on the sidewalk, that's probably end up being about the same.
Yeah, because that way, because I would suspect that what you're trying to do is like, I would suspect that the reason you're on a street is to give people the ability to like spread out a little bit. And then, but if you go up into the park, then you can, that gives you that ability.
Yeah, it's the shortest distance. We're trying to get there and back as fast as possible. But again, you know, like if it's like we're not opposed to, of course, make East Boston a safer community, and in any way in the 10+ years that we've been in business, we want to be a bother to the neighborhood. We cannot exercise anywhere in the shipyard. So that's part of the agreement.
I did not realize that. I did not realize that.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why our kind of like our only alternative to run or walk is Marginal Street.
Okay. And I would say if it would be helpful to you to like reach out to those condo buildings on Marginal Street, because I think that is a bit of an issue that if they don't have mirrors up or some kind of like something to like let people know there are pedestrians there, that is a safety issue that goes beyond you. I do think that's a reasonable thing for us to kind of mention to like, I think the board between like the 4 or 5 of us, we could probably come up with a couple people who live there that we could say to them like, hey, you really need to like look into this. I can't guarantee that they would do something about it, but we can at least raise the issue to them as like a safety issue, because I'm kind of surprised that sooner or later they'll have an accident and then their insurance rates for the building will go up because they install something already. So
no, absolutely,
we can do that too.
Yeah, and again, when you send me the email and made me aware, like I said earlier, full transparency, we were like, oh, we have a whole street, you know. And then as I was running out there or walking to my car, then I started noticing and not just being aware. I'm like, what other things could we do to make this block a little bit safer? And then I noticed that none of those buildings have those mirrors either.
Yeah, no, that's a valid thing. That's a very valid thing. So we appreciate you being here today, Javi. You know, you've been a wonderful small business in the community for many years. We want you to continue to be successful. We want you to continue to be here. I am going to cut you off because it's 8:20 and we have 2 things left on the agenda, and we try to end on time, and you have a kid to get home, which you did state in your email to us. But we wish you many more years of success, and we are very happy to have you here.
Thank you. You guys have a good night. Make sure you get your 8 hours of sleep, please.
We will do that. And we did put we did put a link in the chat to your website. I want you to know that. So if anybody's interested in learning more about Eastie Fit, please do not hesitate to click on the link and go through. So next up, we are going to hear from Jessica Curtis about the Grace Church Food Pantry. She does not have any slides, and that is okay. Jess Curtis, take it away.
Hi everyone. Thank you. I'm visiting you from Wood Island tonight. So thank you for allowing me to join you all. And Jane Crapo, who really runs the food pantry at Grace Church, is also here if anyone has additional questions. But I reached out to Margaret because, for those of you who don't know, the Grace Church Food Pantry, which is also here in Wood Island, close to where Salesians and the Brook Charter School are, on Bennington Street. If you just hop one over onto Saratoga, that's where we are, 760 Saratoga. We've been in operation for about 25 years. Our congregation is fairly small, but the food pantry is really a useful and unique way for us to serve the community. It started about 25 years ago as an emergency food pantry, and we're making the rounds this month, reaching out to our neighbors who've always been super supportive for us because a couple of things have happened. Like I see Michael Zayas from Eastie Farm on the line right now. Hi, Michael. We've been fortunate to partner with Eastie Farm and the Y. And I think, as Michael would tell you also, and as you can probably read in the headlines and just have heard, there's been such an increase in food insecurity in our neighborhood. So what used to be an emergency food pantry that would serve 20 to 25 families per week, for about 80 families per month, has really ballooned since COVID. And so we've just been outstripped by both the demand for food in our community. We're now seeing about anywhere from 110, or I think we had 180 people, 180 families this month. So it's become much more the average that 180 to 200 families are coming to the Grace Church Food Pantry. And since we're only able to serve them one time per month, we can also estimate that these people are getting food in other places around East Boston as well. So we've been reaching out to the community because between the increased demand and then the way that food prices have been rising, we're just going through our stores, our financial resources much more quickly. And we just wanted to let people know that if you have the ability to give and you're looking for a way to donate in the community, now is a great time to support our food pantry. And so I can put the link to our website on the chat. Right now we're very old school, so we're only able to take checks at the moment, which I know is harkens back, I think, to, I don't know, 1975, 1980. But we're working on getting online donations available. But just wanted to see to mention that need. I know a lot of people are looking for ways to donate and be involved in the community. So we hope that you would consider us. And yeah, happy to take any questions.
Is there a time that people can drop off food? And do you take only non-perishables, or could you drop off like frozen or fresh food as well?
We really can only take non-perishables because we don't have a lot of storage space for frozen and fresh foods. You can drop off those during our hours of operation, which is the first and second Saturday of every month from 10 to 12. So if that is the best option available to you, we certainly welcome those donations as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you, sorry, I'll turn my thing. I just want to say, Jess, if you put that information in the chat, we will share it with everyone.
Perfect,
And
I'll
we
do
will
that.
make sure to also put that information on our social media.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So I just want to do a little plug for Grace Church and also for the soup kitchen. Hunger is a little like cancer. It's a disease you can't see, but your neighbor probably has it, and you probably know someone who has it. And places like the soup kitchen and the Grace Church are places that your neighbors go to because they need help. So, when you're thinking about like, hey, I want to help somebody, I want to help my neighbor, please think about the soup kitchen and Grace Church. They're really wonderful organizations. And as you can see, they're run by people in our communities, for people in our communities. So they're really wonderful, and please consider helping them. Thank you so much. And when they put that in, we will share everything in the chat. And then in a lighter note, we will turn it over to Michael Zayas, who is with Eastie Farm, who's going to talk about community. Okay, if you'd asked me 10 seconds ago, I could have told you what it is, but he's going to tell you what he's going to talk
Community-supported
about.
agriculture, yes.
Yes, community-supported agriculture. Yes, but he will tell you all about it. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, before I do that, I just want to say thank you to the board of the JPNA for having us here with y'all tonight. And also, it's great to see familiar faces on the call, like Jessica and Jane. It's a great organization, or sorry, great church, great group of people. We would definitely recommend supporting them. The CSA is going to get started on May 29th, so it's right around the corner. So what we wanted to do is just let you guys know that our deadline for signing up to purchase a CSA share is coming up very soon. It's Wednesday, May 15th. So if you haven't, if you've been like kind of just, letting time go by and like saying to yourself, oh, I want to sign up for a CSA share, but I'll do that later. Just know that Wednesday is the official deadline. And I'll share a link in the chat. If you would like to purchase your share, you can do so by just clicking the link in the chat. I'll put that in there now. So the CSA, it's a 25-week produce subscription service. We're partnered with over 40 Massachusetts based farms and local vendors. And we're getting the highest quality seasonally grown, Massachusetts grown fruits, vegetables, eggs, honey, items that are skyrocketing in the grocery stores. We can provide to families in East Boston and surrounding cities of Revere, Chelsea, and Winthrop at a much lower price point than what you'll find in the grocery store. Our shares come with 10 to 20 pounds of food each week. If you're a smaller household and that sounds like too much food for you for 1 week, we have a bi-weekly option, which should help with eliminating waste and allow you to enjoy everything in the bag while it's fresh. We offer a sliding scale pricing system. So if you are able to afford our helping hand share, which is the highest price point, that share allows us to provide additional discounted and free CSA shares for families who aren't able to afford the higher end shares. We also have SNAP and HIP eligible shares. We still have a few free CSA shares left as well. So again, just wanted to remind everyone that the deadline for purchasing a CSA share is coming up soon. Shared that information in the chat. Please feel free to check us out online. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Do you have a winter share?
We do not have a winter share at this point. That's something that we're going to be looking into doing next year. Once we are able to build some better relationships with the small farms that we're bringing on board this year. Thank you for the question.
And then where is pickup?
We have 2 different pickup locations. 6 Chelsea Terrace, our greenhouse site. You can pick up from there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at different times. And then we have our Sumner site, 294 Sumner, down by Maverick Station. And you can pick up there on Thursdays. And there's more information on the time that you can pick up on each one of those days available on our website, which is in the chat. We're really excited for this year. Last year we had like 20 farm partners. We're doubling that. We're expanding the CSA into Winthrop, Chelsea, and Revere. So we're helping more families who are facing food insecurity currently. And we're making some really exciting moves this year with the CSA. And we're happy to always be a part of these association meetings. Thank you.
So I know it's 8:30. So I will wrap this up very shortly, but I just want to ask, so how many, what is your ideal number of shares that you're hoping to have people sign up for in East Boston this year? Like, you want to have 500 people do shares, you want to have 800 people do shares, what are you hoping for?
Well, my initial number was 1,000, but I had to quickly adjust. So we would be happy with 200. Currently, I think we are maybe halfway there. So it's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. If you all tell 10 people each and they all buy shares, we're going to get close to that number.
That seems awfully low, because I remember pickup at the Sumner Street site last year being really mobbed. But and then how easy is it for people to split a share?
Yeah, so the Sumner Street site last year was our gaining ground free distribution.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
hence the longer lines. This year you have a more specific time frame. You don't have to stand in line all day to get your food. You can just show up between 4 and 7 on a Wednesday and get your bag and go. Last year, people had to wait in line, and that caused some issues. But On our website, we do have the option to purchase split shares, which again is a bi-weekly share. You'll get that every other week. It's available with all of our price tier options. So our helping hand, again, the higher end share, and then our lower end shares are what we call Leg Up Plus plan, which is $25 a week. And again, we also have some free shares and some SNAP and HIP eligible shares, all available for the full season or bi-weekly.
And I apologize to everyone. I shared the Grace Church link twice and labeled the second one for Eastie Farm. So I have just reshared the Eastie Farm link correctly. So if you click the second link and were like, oh, that's weird, I was looking for the Eastie Farm CSA and I wound up at Grace Church again. Why did that happen? It's not you, it was me. Okay. Thank you to everyone. We appreciate having you here this evening. This meeting will be posted online, both the meeting minutes and the recording of this meeting on our website, www.jeffriespoint.org. If you have any questions, please follow up with us at board@jeffriespoint.org. And again, the East Boston Shipyard will be on our planning and zoning meeting, which will be next Wednesday on Zoom, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Thank you very much for joining us, and I declare this meeting officially finished. Have a great night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Oh, wait, I need to stop the recording. How do I do that? Stop recording.